Right, hello everyone, and welcome to a new kind of video on the channel. I know usually on a Saturday I will upload an unboxing video, but this week I'm doing something a bit different. So here we have my 5 sort of picks, 5 recommendations from 5 publishers. And yeah, I just kind of wanted to try out a new kind of video rather than doing an unboxing every week. So if you like this, if you think I should keep doing these, do another one, then let me know down below. Let me know by leaving a like or just a comment, anything like that. So I hope you enjoy, and without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so first up, I will start with the big 2, and then we'll get into some other publishers like Image and some other stuff like that. So here we have Spider-Man Life Stories by Chip Zdarsky and Mark Bagley. This is a book that I adore. I love it so much. If you've watched my Beyond the Page episode for Chip Zdarsky, you'll know a bit about this and how it came to be. But this was the first Spider-Man book I ever read. I know. When I tell that to people, they're like, how can that be the first book you read? You can't read that as the first book. But I did, and I loved it, and I still love it, and it's incredible. I'd love to reread it now that I've read some of the other stuff, now that I've read classic stories like Kraven's Last Hunt and just stuff like that, but it's so good, and Chip Zdarsky does a brilliant job writing. Takes you through the eras, takes you through from 1960s all the way up to 2019, and we just get Spider-Man, and we get Peter Parker's life, but he ages in real time. You have him as a teenager trying to sort of date Gwen Stacy, and we get fights with Dr. Octopus. We see a bit of his new suits, we see him talk with Reed Richards, we get the Clone Saga, everything like that, we see Ben Reilly, and this is 6 issues. The fact that Chip Zdarsky was able to tell such a condensed story in 6 issues and take you through the entire mythos of Spider-Man, in my opinion, proves why he's one of the greatest writers writing at the moment. So yeah, we see Peter age, and we come to really feel for him. So when we see the Venom storyline, and when we see the Kraven's Last Hunt storyline, and in the 90s you see more things with Ben Reilly, and you see more things with Venom and Doc Ock, and it's all so well done. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And then in the sort of later periods where you see Morlun, and you see just like Captain America and Luke Cage and Hawkeye and all these other heroes are also aging. So it's not just Spider-Man. Like, you have Luke Cage is aging, Hawkeye is aging, and it just makes me want to read like Old Man Hawkeye and Old Man Logan, stuff like that. Yeah, and then we cut to the 10s, issue 6, and Spider-Man is an old man now, 2019, and he's working with Miles Morales. How cool is that Miles Morales is in this story? And we get the Doc Ock storyline where he takes over Peter's body, only it's Miles Morales' body. We get things about Doc Ock and Aunt May, their relationship, and it just, yeah, it makes you want to read Spider-Man so much more. So if you're starting out reading Spider-Man, I'd highly suggest this, or if you're just a Spider-Man fan who hasn't read this, do yourself a favour and check it out. That is Spider-Man Life Stories by Chip Zdarsky and Mark Bagley. Okay, and then from DC we have Superman Birthright from Mark Waid and Leinil Francis Yu. So when it comes to DC, I could have picked a number of things. I could have picked Long Halloween, Dark Victory, could have picked Batman New 52 run, I could have picked anything. So it was really difficult to actually try and narrow it down to something. And this is my personal list, so you might not agree with it, but the reason Superman Birthright is on here is because this is the story that made me appreciate Superman and made me like Superman. Before reading this story, I didn't really like Superman. I just thought he was a bit of a Boy Scout and invulnerable to everything. But here we see him blasted off from Krypton, we see him grow as a news reporter, we see the dual identity between Clark Kent and Superman, and the way that Mark Waid writes this, or as Mad Dog Comics would say, Mark fucking Waid. Anytime I say Mark Waid, I'm going to think of that. The way that Mark Waid writes him is incredible. It's so great. We get to see Clark grow up and grow from being a boy to a man. and then becoming the Superman that we all know and love. And if you're not a fan of Superman, just try this. Just read it, give it a go, and if you still don't like it, that's completely fine. But I guarantee you will. When I read this, these are in 2 parts, so I read both parts back to back. And yeah, I just loved it. I really, really enjoyed it. And I've gone on to read Last Son of Krypton, Secret Origin. I want to read All-Star Superman. But it's so, yeah, I can't really say enough about this book. I can't really give it enough praise. And like I say, I could have picked anything from DC, and I picked this because it's the book that got me into Superman. And the artwork in it is just fantastic. So, that's Superman Birthright by Mark Waid and Lynil Francis Yu. So, next up, I was going to go with Image, but I think we'll save it. I mean, you can probably see what it is, but this is Spencer and Locke by David Prepos and Jorge or George Santiago Jr. I'm so sorry. I'm hoping that one of those ways is right to pronounce that name. Yeah, but this story, if you don't know it, I have unboxed it on the channel and I talked about it a little bit then. But it was so weird how I came about this. I was listening to a podcast and one of the hosts had just said he'd read this and said it was kind of like Calvin and Hobbes if Calvin had a horrible childhood and then grew up to be a gristle police detective. So I picked up volume 1 and just thought I'd give it a go. And the way that this is written and told is so impactful. The way that we see flashbacks to his childhood and the way the art style changes between him as an adult and a child is so impactful. And you see how horrible his childhood was. And spoilers for this. If you don't want spoilers, just skip 30 seconds. He has a daughter and he doesn't want that for his daughter. And so, yeah, as a detective, he's just trying to, he's trying to save this girl and he gets into all kinds of action. And this is not a superhero story, but he has an imaginary 6-foot-tall panther that is his partner. And it's great, yeah. It deals a lot with sort of detective aspects, but also mixes in things like PTSD and mental health issues, and yeah, I'm looking forward to volume 3, which hopefully is coming out soon. I'm not sure if there's a release date for it just yet, but the way that volume 2 ends, I'm looking forward to volume 3. I can't recommend this highly enough. I think I've said that for every book, and I probably will, but I can't recommend it highly enough. Check it out. That's Spencer and Locke by David Prepos and Jorge Santiago Jr. I'm going to go with Jorge. Okay, and then we have, from Vertigo, Preacher by Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon. I know some of you are going to say, Cade, you've done DC, you can't do Vertigo as well, but this is my list, and Vertigo is a different publisher from DC. So recently on the channel I've wrapped up my Preacher review series, and yeah, there's a link to that, it's in the playlist of my comic reviews, and if you've watched them, or you've seen anything from it, you'll know how much I love this book. This was one of the first big stories I ever read. This was one of the first independently published stories I ever read. I was just kind of getting into comics with DC, with the New 52 stuff, and then I watched the Preacher show, and I bought, without even reading any of it, I bought the entire series because someone was selling it on eBay for like 50 quid. I bought it and I'm so glad that I did. I'm so glad I got it in these 6 books that you can see here. I'd love to get it in the absolutes, but this follows Jesse Custer, a preacher in Texas, his girlfriend Tulip and their friend Cassidy, who turns out to be a vampire. Throughout the 75 issues collected in the 6 books, the characters change so much and go through so much, and Steve Dillon's art remains impeccable throughout. So does Garth Ennis' writing. The characters really stay the same, and you get to know them as sort of, not friends, but like you get to know them closely. You get to know their motives, and you see the reason they're doing everything they're doing. And yeah, you see the relationships form between them, you see the story develop more and more. And so, what is Preacher? Well, Jesse Custer is given the gift of the Word of God, Genesis, and so he can, basically anything he says with Genesis, people have to obey because it's the Word of God. And so he goes on a mission to find God and question him as to why the world is the way it is. Meanwhile, he's being hunted by a cowboy from the 1800s called the Saint of Killers, who's seemingly indestructible and can kill anything. It sounds really out there, but I would definitely give it a read. This one is kind of, I would say people over the age of maybe like 17, 18, just because there's like swearing, nudity in this, but yeah, you should definitely check it out. That's Creature by Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon. Okay, and then finally we have, some of you can probably see, that is Invincible by Robert Kirkman, Corey Walker and Ryan Otley. Invincible follows 17-year-old Mark Grayson. His dad is the most powerful superhero in the world, called Omni-Man. But his dad's an alien from another planet, so kind of like Superman. Mark's his son, and he develops powers of his own, and then it kind of deals with his story. We get to watch Mark as he grows up, as he learns things about mortality and humanity and just everything to do with what it means to be a hero. This book is incredible, and it might be my favourite superhero story. I know it's not coming from Marvel or DC, but it might be my favourite superhero story. The way that Mark changes throughout this book and throughout the other compendiums is incredible, and Robert Kirkman's writing is incredible. The way it changes from 2003 when this was released all the way to 2018. Yeah, we just get to see him grow, we get to see him fight otherworldly characters, we get to see him interact with otherworldly characters, and it's great. It's really, really great. We just see, I mean, this book kind of has everything. It's funny, it's dramatic, it has tension, it's got some horror elements, it's got fantasy, it's got sci-fi, literally everything. With this, I would say you don't have to be a fan of superheroes, you just have to be a fan of a good story. Maybe keep an open mind when it comes to things like aliens and sci-fi and things like that. If you're not really interested in that, then yeah, this might not be the best story for you, but it does such a good job of introducing them and keeping them kind of grounded at like a level where it doesn't seem implausible. You know, it seems plausible that all this could happen to a superhero and a guy whose dad is an alien from another planet. And some of the things that Mark has to go through and deal with are insane. So yeah, without saying any more and risking to spoil it, that is Invincible by Robert Kirkman, Corey Walker and Ryan Otley. So, this has just been quite a short video, probably short, I hope it's short, but I just wanted to try something new and say my 5 favourite books from 5 publishers. If you do want a second episode, there's a lot more publishers out there, so I can do a second episode. And in the comments down below, why don't you say what your favourite books are from some of these publishers, like from Marvel, DC, Image, what are your favourite books? So, that is the end of that video. If you did like, please leave a like down below, consider subscribing, and I will see you all in the next one. See you later. Bye.